let's talk about your market share, right? Because that's been a little bit of a concern. It's been around 10-11%. And players like a Bajaj Auto, TVS Motors, they came after you, and now they're much stronger than you in terms of market share. Why weren't you aggressive enough? You ceded market share to them.
Our first product was a performance scooter, Ather 450, and I think that's done incredibly well for where it is positioned. It's a limited addressable market, 19-20% of the scooter market. But I think within that space, 450 has done incredibly well, especially in the southern markets. Our new scooter, Rista, that's the one that's actually changed our trajectory quite meaningfully. So you would have access to the Vahan data. So you would know how we have done on market shares post-Rista launch.
It's about 16%, I think.
Yeah, so and there is your answer, right? The 10-11 that you were citing and the almost 15-16 that you're referring to now. A lot of that growth has come because we now have a new product in the offering. And that product allows us to expand into new geographies. It allows us to go after newer customers and also the larger markets. Particularly if you see, so go market by market. We're not trying to win all India in one shot. And I think good companies will also always focus. We've been always very focused in South, where if anything in recent months, we've been also the largest player, even by volume. Recently, we've also started doing well in some of the Western markets. And I think with Rista, we'll continue expanding. We are very clear, we will only expand our distribution as it shows viability. We don't want to expand distribution if it is not viable. And more products just make more stores profitable. So with Rista, that's giving us a lot of confidence. We'll expand there. Our peers in the industry can sometimes expand faster because they've got existing ICE businesses. Which makes this the question of who gets what first, right? Do you get distribution first or do you get product and innovation first? Well, we're learning distribution and we're expanding that.
So what's your market share aspiration?
We strongly believe that India is a premiumization story. You would typically imagine somebody going after a mass premium strategy is going after a small market share. We think otherwise. We think the entire two-wheeler story is premiumizing. Scooters are particularly premiumizing super fast. We've even mentioned that data in our RHP. In fact, the sale of 125cc scooters, which used to be considered premium once upon a time. If I tell you there's a premium category, you typically expect what? It's 5-10% of the industry, right? The sale of 125cc scooters has grown from 20% to 47% in FY24. And I'm sure it would have continued its growth trajectory even now. So we actually believe that the two-wheeler story and the scooter story particularly is the one that of premium products and consumers upgrading up. We want to be a great option for those customers. That's what we're positioning our brand towards. So we obviously have good market share ambitions. Can't put an exact number.
You know, I'm coming back to the market share point, right? I know it's improved from the 9 months that you've quoted in RHP and as per the Vahan data.
Yeah.
But even your peers, the ones I referred to, Bajaj, TVS, even their market share has climbed as per the Vahan data. It's now at 20% plus. Do you have the resources to fight the big boys?
It's very incorrect to see this in terms of a fight. I know there's an easy temptation to see that this is a fight. We're all creating the EV market at such an early stage. Honestly, very few products are even truly competing against each other. At this point, remember, we all have a fairly small portfolio that we are selling out of still a limited distribution compared to our ICE peers. So the real challenge for us, all of us, is to convert more and more of the ICE vehicle buyers to electric vehicle buyers. And which is why you will need a lot of resources to fight if it is the same pie being cut different ways, right? So in that case, you have to go discounting, you have to throw money at it to win market share. I think right now market share is really down to what products you're building and how many more customers' problems can you solve. And that's what happened for us with Rista. With 450, we could only go after one kind of customer, the performance scooter buyer. The minute we could build a convenience scooter, our market share and our volumes have shown a healthy trajectory. So, and I think that's what will happen. Build more scooters, build motorcycles. As we build all of them, we are fundamentally taking market share away from petrol vehicles. And that's the right way to see this. We've been fairly healthily capitalized by our existing investors. And obviously, I think the IPO is that one big jump.
Which gives you the resources also.
It also gives us good, solid resources to continue investing in growth.
You know, the problem, you spoke about EV penetration, right? The pie is large enough for everyone, but the pie needs to keep growing. Now, EV penetration, despite all the hoopla surrounding it has been increasing at a very slow pace. It was 4.5% in FY23. FY24, it was 5.1%. And now in 9 months, till December of 2024, it was about 5.5%, 5.6%. So it's been expanding despite all the subsidies at a very slow pace. And that's really the elephant in the room for all of you.
Right. I think there is zero doubt in my head that the industry continues to expand. Volumes will continue to grow. I think after our initial product launches, all of us are now starting to also solve for industry barriers. Like, how do we get more consumers? So you're looking again at the overall two-wheeler number, but if you see the scooter data particularly, because most of us are selling electric scooters for the most part, penetration is already up at almost 3x that level, 3.5x that level, because scooters are a different market. I think as we start solving for better range, easier charging, better battery life, and I think a lot of that is starting to happen. If you see Ather itself, we now are, in the recent months, we've been able to introduce an 8-year battery warranty. The truth is, Ather has been only in like, 100, 200 cities until now. India has a 1,000-city market. So we've got to expand our distribution, we've got to expand our products, and most importantly, we've got to start solving for category barriers, which is, I think, starting to happen in a meaningful way last year. The results of it, you will see as consumers discover it. The ultimate answer here also is that marketing in our industry has been a little slim. So that's something we've been very bullish about. In fact, we wrote a large section in our RHP that it's very imperative for EV brands to invest in marketing, not as a way to fight each other, but as a way to drive category awareness higher. Because the fundamental truth of electric is that it is great for consumers, total cost of ownership is amazing for most scooter buyers, and with things like 8-year battery warranty, a large fast charging network, they are good answers to some fundamental category barriers. But you need to get the word out, which is what we are starting to invest in a bigger and bigger way.
So one problem, as you also articulated, is the way geographically your sales are happening, right? 60% of your sales happen in South. How will this change? Because you have a production facility, you're planning capex in Maharashtra. So how are you looking to change? Are you looking to be more aggressive in other areas? Like West, you've already started.
West and North are big focus areas for us. They are good electric scooter markets, and one we are quite excited about with Rista. Part of the reason we are also setting up Auric is in Aurangabad. A complete facility there is so that as our sales expand in these territories, which is what you're hoping for, we also have a production facility in that geography to service them.
But you are aggressively expanding your distribution and marketing spends.
Yes, we are.
Okay, got it. And capex, currently, what is the production capacity and how much will it increase in phases, if you could give a timeline?
So the current wholesale capacity is about 4.5 lakhs, and with the Sambhajinagar Auric facility, we'll be investing about 900 crores. The entire investment will be done by March 27. Like to do it if it happens earlier, and that will bring in about 500,000 capacity more in phase 1. Post that, when we work on the phase 2, that will bring in 500,000 capacity more.
Tarun, how would you gauge the investor sentiment? Because you lowered the amount that you were looking to raise. What we learn is that even the valuation has come down over the last couple of months. One, that there's a lot of market turmoil. But even this whole, Blue Smart scandal, for instance, Ola Electric share price has fallen 65% from its highs. So clearly, investors have sort of burnt their finger, private and public.
I would put it differently. I think investors now are wiser and understand the industry a little better with some more experience. What we have had an opportunity to meet are incredibly smart investors who have a very good thesis of how the category expands. I think there is no doubt in anybody's mind that the EV sector is growing and scooters are going to obviously lead the way here. That's what we believe in. That's what we've seen in investors. You notice that even in the overall size of the IPO, we've only touched the debt repayment schedule, nothing else. None of the growth investment pieces have been retouched at all. And even debt we have largely touched only because recent quarter's performance gives us a lot of confidence on our accruals and our ability to repay the debt instead of paying it right away. So our growth story remains intact. We have zero doubts about it, and I believe investors see that also. Finally, price is, it's a book building process. It's such a long process. Banks work with investors, and the feedback that comes eventually is the one you go. Nobody can time, and I don't think we're definitely here to time the market. I think we're building a great business that, and I'm sure recent data kind of gives you that sense, is on a great trajectory. So you want to make sure that the future growth is fully
so investors haven't turned a tad bit cautious, right? There's no taking, I mean, credit where it's due. What you've built is remarkable. But, while you can be relatively unscathed, you can't be immune if the investors turn cautious towards the entire EV ecosystem.
I think that plays out in a bit of timing also. So, and I think bankers have advised us well there when to bring the issue out, making sure that the entire investor community is kind of kept abreast and is kind of kept aware about how the business is shaping up.
Just, one final, set of questions, and that's on Hero MotoCorp. Hero MotoCorp is one of your early backers. They invested in 2018? 17. And they hold now how much?
37% before the IPO.
Before the IPO.
Yeah.
Now, they're also, isn't there any conflict of interest in that way? Because they are also one of the largest two-wheeler makers. They have their own EV aspirations.
You kind of answered it. Hero has been one of our oldest backers. Even before Ather actually began production and was, for the most part, an idea, Hero has been a solid investor. It's invested over several private equity rounds that we have raised, along with investors several times. But I think what's been true and what's been clear to both parties is that it has a very different platform, and it needs to be built in a very different way. Our focus on scooters, our focus on premium customers, our focus on the upgrading Indian, I think these are very, very interesting and very different stories, and which is why we're building them out differently.
So no conflict of interest, because they would know what you're doing as the promoters.
I think that is, I think we're not at a point in our industry where it's individual EV players really competing with each other that's really determining this. I think Hero's presence on the cap table, their continued and solid support over the years has meant a lot for the business, and we're very, very, very happy to have them as
So what's their involvement
partners.
then in the company?
So their involvement is largely at a board level, where they've been involved for many years now, almost all the 8 years that they've been. There are a few topics on which we have even collaborated. So like we realized a few years ago that infrastructure, especially charging infrastructure, needs an industry-wide push. But how do you get started? Because every player is so neck deep in operations and just thinking about their own strategy, because they're still early days of the industry. Now that was a topic where us and Hero could get together and take the then Ather standard and actually push this as a more neutral and industry standard together. Actually commonize charging infrastructure, push for things together, push for a common standard in India. So there have been topics like that where we did collaborate, but a lot of the operational topics, companies have stayed independent.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Tarun and Swapnil. Wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you.